think at this point, let's open up the conversation to the floor. So on that note, let's please get the gentleman in the front, followed by the gentleman from Oxfam, who's sitting at the back. And then we'll take, I think the third question was somewhere in the front. Thank you very much, sir. Please go ahead.
Thanks. I'm Dumisani Takile. Before the NDP was adopted, these are some of the processes that were supposed to be followed, including an engagement with ordinary people on the ground and on the street. Then the process itself to become the process of the experts as it is. And that's one fundamental flaw of this particular plan itself. That's why an ordinary person in Nkandla does not understand what is the NDP all about. And I think that's the first fundamental flaw in relation to that. But secondly, I think, Minister, if we talk about development, and you look in terms of the economic section of the NDP, in relation to the question of the GCO efficiency, it says that we must move from 6.9 to 0.60. What does that in reality mean in relation to the question of inequality and poverty in our country? I think also, if we talk about South Africa being able to be a global player, if we look at our economy currently, across various sectors, in actual fact, the past 20 years, what it has done, it has enriched and it has consolidated to what we call your colonial powers. Because if you look in terms of the banks, for example, all four of your major banks, who owns them? You look at your mines currently, who owns them? I mean, we can go to various sections of the what you call of our sectors. In fact, there's quite a lot of the issue that we wanted to unpack. But I think lastly, I don't hear anything around the question of what the fundamental principles of the movement have been in relation to the question of imperialism. And for us, from where we are seeing a rise of imperialism. The conflict, for example, currently between Russia and what you call and the USA, where could it lead us to? Thanks.
Thank you very much, Dumisani. So from what I get there was a question on inequality and some of the fundamental principles around empiricalism. Let's get the questions coming from Oxfam, and then we'll take the question in the front. Yes, please.
Thank you. My name is Mtandas Ondleva. I'm the Public Policy Advisor with Oxfam. I mean, just to validate what Dumisani was saying, in South Africa, we've got two people controlling the wealth that is equivalent to the half of the population, that is 26.5 million. Anyway, in practical terms, I want to ask, directed to the Minister, what South Africa is doing, acting along with BRICS G20 to curb the tax dodging and as well contributing towards the closing of the tax governance system, looking at tax evasion as it deprives the nation of much needed resources to finance development and inequality in South Africa. Thanks.
Thanks, Mtandazo. That's a question on tax evasion and what we're doing as a country to curb tax dodging. Sir, would you like to pose your question, please?
Thank you so much. My name is Solomon. I heard the Professor Anthony, and he said that there is a need to revisit regional instruments. But on the other hand, the minister said no. Regional integration, cooperation, continental integration is fundamental. So I think that there is a difference, or probably I didn't take the point of the professor. Second question is, if you look at the output of the SADC region, 68% comes from South Africa. So, on that regard, the issue of economic diplomacy is a given, whether you like it or not. The point is, diplomacy is you give and you receive. Where is the balance on that regard? Those are my two questions.
Thank you very much,
Thank you.
sir. I think let's try and tackle that round of questions. And maybe we can even start on the regional instruments. Minister, if you want to take those. And of course, any of the panelists, if you want to weigh in on some of the comments.
Well, I don't know if I must be listing these regional instruments because we should be knowing about them. I've listed them. They are on my input. Not all of them, but majority of them I've tried to include in my input. I just want to say this Dr. Salma who spoke now or who attempted to ask a question is literally a walking encyclopedia of what regional integration is about after having spent more than 8 years as SADC Executive Secretary. So you want to ask questions about integration of origin? Ask him. Where is he embedded at the moment? I think he's at West University. Am I right? Prof? Yeah. He's there. Yeah. So I think that will be taken good care of. The issue of tax evasion is what that Tandazo referred to, is what we have been talking about. When we started, we were lonely voices in the G20. When G20 started, it was South Africa amongst the many other countries that said, you want to fix the global challenges and the economy, start with this. At that time, tax evasion and tax dodgers were very comfortable in all the tax havens that you know of. As a diplomat, I don't have to be naming names. But the fact that this matter has come to the center of the debates and agenda of the G20 this time around, and in previous meetings that were in, even those who were the super tax havens were now saying, Kwanel, this needs to go. In our country, it comes in the form now of what we refer to as shadow banking. People don't want to pay taxes, so they find other mashonisa ways of hiding on tax evasion, big and small. So this is a menace, a demon that we have to continue fighting. What do we want to do with the economy of South Africa that had excluded majority of people of this country, more than 70%, for more than 300 years? Radical economic transformation of this economy. There's no shortcut. So there is no amount of finger pointing, whether they comes from Brother Dumisani or anybody, but it's about how we have to respond to what Prof. Pandey said. It's not about creating new institutions and also saying, let's rewrite the NDP. It's what do we do, what we have, and how do we move forward. Dumisani is too young to complain about how we should be going back to the villages to rewrite the NDP. We need to say, how do we take it back to the people to make our people to become the owners of this plan? This plan needs to keep moving as we implement, but making sure that we continue to make sure that development is about our people. South Africa is not another country floating in the Atlantic or Indian Ocean. It's very much integral part of this continent, the African continent. The market, our people are our own liberators. They are our market. They are our future.
I'm going to ask a professor to respond to the regional integration issue, but as you come up, Prof. Pregs, maybe let's also get you just weighing in on the question that Dumisani raised around inequality and where we're moving in terms of that direction.
I think it's a challenge to governance economic policy and to the NDP to actually look at questions around tax evasion, because you're talking about billions and billions of rands worth of losses in the country. I mean, you're talking also, I mean, if you take about water, you've got over 40 mining companies who are operating currently without water use licenses. And so the question of what, the issue of power and who has the power to skew or to our own policy choices and our own policy priorities, I think is central to addressing the issues of inequality. But also, to what extent do we ensure that there's real meaningful participation and consultation that government engages with in any policy. Because if the policy is going to work, it has to be thoroughly informed by what the reality is that people are experiencing.
Let's get Prof. Pillay weighing in on that as well.
Perhaps if I could just raise one last question. The question I'd like to raise is today's International Day of Ending Violence Against Women, and it's the beginning of the 16 Days campaign. The theme of the global theme is ending militarism. And I suppose I want to just raise the issue of the continuum of violence from militarization or from, and the issue of the extractive industries, whether it's in the DRC or wherever across the country, across the continent, and in our own country. The levels of violence just go out of the roof. So I think I'd just like to ask, how are policy makers thinking about gender equality beyond paying lip service to it?
Prof, I see you in the corner, and I'm holding you there so that when you do respond, you take on a number of issues. So, but let's get Prof. Pillay coming in on a comment.
Yeah, I wanted to respond to Dumisani's comment. I mean, he's a former student of mine, so I'm very pleased to see that he has absorbed the lessons of the classroom. But he's correct in pointing out that the socio-economic indicators in the National Development Plan are extremely conservative. With respect to income inequality, with respect to economic growth, for instance. But on the other hand, the government has never said, as far as I can understand, that this is a perfect document. Only the South African private sector thinks it's a perfect document. And that in itself should be a source of concern. But if we're going to get this minimal drop in inequality measures for a 20-year period, and if we're only going to achieve 5% growth rate, then we're not going to address any of the development problems in this country. And so I think certainly the plan has erred because these measures are too conservative. But if we are looking to a revision of economic and social policy, we can revisit those indicators, I think.
A call to revisit some of those indicators. Let's get the Prof to make a quick comment, and then we'll come back to the debate, go back to the floor once more, and then move on.
The NDP, whether you look at the weak or the strong chapter, it doesn't matter. It says the same thing. SADC is facing serious obstacles. And the question that we need to ask is, what is the most effective and efficient way that we can develop SADC to serve our interests? Our interests are being unpacked by the panel as we speak. And so what you have to ask is the SADC headquarters in Gaborone, the 6 floors, or you sat on the 7th floor, and its member states, and the national contact points, Minister, appropriately designed and activated to deal with these questions of our political economy, which is the biggest question I think that SADC needs to address. So, I don't want to go into the details. There are 2 business plans. There's the RISDP. I can't even remember what it stands for. The Regional Indicative Development Program of SADC. That's the one leg. The second leg is the peace and security one, which is SIPO, which is not a name of a person, the Strategic Indicative Plan for the organ. You have to ask how effective and efficient these 2 plans work. The last thing I want to say is, as South Africans, Minister, how bold can I be?
Take your best shot.
Okay. Do we really understand what SADC is all about? Do we market SADC amongst our people properly? Do we staff SADC as experts? Do we rise to the challenge? I must immediately say my view is that we do a lot of this stuff. We went to Lesotho. We are in Lesotho as we speak with the Deputy President, who's doing mediation. This is excellent stuff. But you've got to ask the other question, why would SADC develop a uni visa, a tourist visa for outsiders to travel across the 15 member states, but we ourselves can't get that? So I want to propose to Dirko, can we reconvene next year to talk much more seriously about SADC? Thank you.
Thank you, Prof.